Hey, what's going on everyone? I'm the OPJellicent and we are team building for GBA D-League, Season number 4, Week number 3, up against the Los Angeles Nidokings, coached by CrobatFTW Danza. Definitely a very good player. I believe he's actually the first ever Draft League champion from GBA Season 1, so this is definitely a very tough opponent right here. I really think he's going to go a really offensive route with his team just because his bulk is kind of broken by a lot of my Pokemon, so you can see his 11 Pokemon that he has the potential to bring over on the right, and as usual you can see my 6 Pokemon at the top of your screen. We'll go through his 11 Pokemon one by one, and then we'll go through my 6 Pokemon and what sets I'm bringing, and get my thoughts on the matchup as a whole. So let's go ahead and get started. So his first Pokemon right here is the Mega Gallade, which definitely has an interesting matchup. It does have a really great speed tier against my team, outspeeding everything on my roster, but it's kind of hard checked by stuff like Mega Pincers, Choice Scarf, Hoop-On Bound, which is definitely a very likely Choice Scarfer that I would bring this week based on the matchup, so definitely a very interesting bring by him. If he does bring it, it also does get affected by Sticky Webs, so if we do get the webs up, a lot of the Pokemon that would normally not outspeed it, Manaphy, Kyurem, Pyroar, Verzion, all of those would naturally outspeed the Mega Gallade, so if I do get up webs, he's going to have to defog. I believe his only hazard control is defog too with Torrentee and Silvally, so definitely an interesting option with Mega Gallade right there. I could definitely see it coming just because of the speed tier, but it just hits it very hard. I'm pretty sure it gets coverage from my entire team because it does obviously get Poison Jab for my Florges, so definitely a very likely bring, but I would not be surprised if he left it off the table. Next up, he has the Weavile, which is kind of in the same boat as the Mega Gallade, except I think it does the job better as terms of being like a fast wall breaker. You can run like a choice band set. I do have a defensive Manaphy this week tailored to take that thing on, so we can take 2 banded knockoffs very well. But one definitely annoying thing is if I do want to lock into Hyperspace Fury, I'll take that defense drop and he can Pursuit Trap me, so I definitely do have to be careful about that. It also is faster than my Mega Pinsir, it can out-prioritize that with Ice Shard, so that can definitely be pretty scary too. And overall, it's not a Z-move user, so Florges can't take that thing on because it can't run Poison EMZ, but definitely can do a ton of damage. I'm pretty sure if he predicts me to switch into Florges and he has hazards up, he can actually 2-hit KO me that way, so definitely something to keep in mind right there. Next up, he has the first of his 2 Z-move users, which is actually, 2 Z-move users it looks like, which is the Tornadus Therian right here. It's one of his 2 forms of hazard control, and I definitely do plan on prioritizing getting up hazard this weak, just because he has a lot of weak mons to hazards. Everything really doesn't appreciate them. But Torrentee has a really great speed tier against me too. Can threaten my Hoop-On Bound with something like U-Turn. Outspeeds my Mega Pinsir, can definitely take a quick attack, and if he hits my Manaphy with a Flying EMZ, it'll actually do a ton. It won't OHKO unless I take some prior damage, but it could definitely wall break really well. Kind of scared out by stuff like Xurkitree. Same thing with Hoop-On Bound. Choice Scarf Hoop-On Bound with Hyperspace Fury would definitely be a problem for that mon, but definitely a very likely ring. I would be surprised if he did not bring Tornadus Therian this week. The next 2 Pokemon I'm kind of going to talk about together, the Tangrowth plus Toxapex Regenerator Core right here. I really don't expect them to come. While Toxapex is one of his best responses to my Pyroar, I have so many responses to this dual Regenerator Core, I really don't think it's very viable. Something like AV Tangrowth could come, but it's blown back by stuff like Pyroar and Kyurem anyway, and Physical Hoop-On Bound and Mega Pinsir kind of blow through that too. And Toxapex, it's a very likely bring. It's not a very likely bring because obviously it can stop my Pyroar, but same thing, Earth Power Kyurem. Mega Pinsir does a ton. Hoop-On Bound with Psychic coverage. I'm really not expecting him to bring some sort of gimmicks out with like Aya Pop-Up. What's the Psychic Reduction Berry plus Pin Missile? I really not expecting to see that. And Tailglow Manaphy kind of blows back both as well. Even with Assault Vest Tangrowth, 2 Ice Beams are definitely going to knock that thing out. So really not expecting any of the Regenerator Core besides Tornadus T to come this week. But if he really is scared of my Pyroar, which I am bringing this week, he can go the Toxapex route. Up next he has the Silvally, which can run any type, so definitely very scary. I actually had a match last week where I kind of forgot to check what Silvally type it was, so definitely don't want to make that mistake this week. But Silvally, very likely Choice Scarfer in my opinion. Choice Scarf with U-Turn could definitely be a good check to something like Hoop-On Bound. Could get in his heavy hitters such as Mega Gallade, Weavile. Could help out with that offensive route right there. Could also form an Isovolt turn core with the Jolteon, which I do think is very likely because Choice Scarf Silvally would outseed my entire roster barring Choice Scarf users, so could definitely gain him the momentum he needs, but really I'm not too worried about it. We've prepped for most Silvally types, so I just need to scout the type and respond accordingly. Next up he has the Jolteon. Also, I forgot, Silvally is another defogger. I believe it's the only other form of hazard control he has, so definitely something to keep in mind right there. Could defog my new rocks that I want to get up with my Registeel. Next up he has the Jolteon, which forms a Volt turn core with the Silvally and the Tornadus T if he wants to do that. But it does also outspeed my entire roster. Exact same thing though, it's kind of, well, it's also a good response to Mega Pinsir, but Choice Scarf Hoopa definitely does a ton of work against that. If he's not running Choice Scarf, then under the webs, my Manaphy, my Kyurem, and all that can definitely outspeed that too, which is definitely very nice. And it really doesn't do much to Jolteon, to Kyurem anyway. It can T-Wave me but I'm really not worried about that. I'm bringing a very bulky Kyurem this week, so definitely not too worried about Jolteon right there. I feel like it's pretty well checked. Next up, he has the Alolan Marowak, which I believe he picked up in free agency just for this week. I believe he dropped Arcanine or something like that, but very threatening Ghost type. The dual stab actually, I believe, hits my entire roster, at least neutrally. And it is one of the monsters on this team that can effectively break through my Registeel very well, alongside that Mega Gallade as well, obviously, and potential Z-move Tornadus T, so definitely a very scary threat. If he brings it, I'm assuming it'll just be like an anti-Hoop Unbound Trick Room Mon. That's why I'm not doing Trick Room Hoop Unbound this week, because if he does go 0 Speed IVs, then he definitely can outslow my Hoop Unbound right there, so definitely something to keep in mind. Could just be very slow, just going to be a nice wall breaker, and yeah, that's really the route I'm expecting him to go with that if it does come. Mesprit is one of his Stealth Rockers, I believe, alongside. Is that his only Stealth Rocker? He has the Steelix too, and he has other hazards with T-Specs and Toxapex. I'm probably missing something, but Mesprit, very bulky Psychic type. It actually has decent offensive stats too, which I didn't know until I looked at prepping for it, so kind of scary. It can carry U-turn for my Hoopa Unbound. I believe it even has a higher speed stat. I'll have to double check on that, so he might even go offensive Mesprit if he really wants to do that, but then it'll get wall broken by a lot of things, such as Xurkitree, Mega Pinsir. So I really am expecting a bulky set this week. Could be a really niche switch into my Virizion. And he could even bring like an Assault Vest Mesprit, but then he forgoes the Stealth Rock, so I'm really not expecting that. And Assault Vest Mesprit could do something against Pyro, I guess. It could probably 2-KO me with Psychic anyway. But I'm really not expecting Mesprit to come, in all honesty. It's kind of Manaphy setup fodder, and Hoopa Unbound completely blows it back. Mega Pinsir, same thing. So really not expecting Mesprit, but if it does, it'll just be like a bulky Stealth Rocker. Next up, he has the Drampa, which I'm really hoping Drampa doesn't come, because part of the way I want to win this game is with my Pyro. Hoopa Unbound, physical Hoopa Unbound specifically, can break Drampa, but really hoping not to see the Drampa, because if it does come, I'm going to have a lot tougher time with my Pyro right here. But other than that, it can be a really nice Manaphy response if he wants to bring like an Assault Vest set. And really, it's not going to be doing much else. It's pretty much pivoted on, but the U-turn, I have Volt Turn on my team, so definitely very great. Mega Pinsir blows it back. Assault Vest set does take one hit for my Kyurem, and obviously Oko's back with Draco, so probably need to chip that down too. And finally Steelix, which is a Stealth Rocker. Steelix has a pretty okay matchup right here. It can switch into Mega Pinsir decently, but obviously I do get access to close combat, but it will live one of those. And it could be a really nice Xurkitree response too, in case he's afraid of Z Xurkitree, but I feel like if he was afraid of Z Xurkitree, he would just go the AV Tangrowth route anyway. But really not expecting the Steelix either. I'm going to have to double check his hazards, because if Mesprit and Steelix are his only way to set up Stealth Rocks, then I definitely need to take those more into consideration. But yeah, those are the 11 Pokemon he has the potential to bring. Let's go ahead and go over my team now. Alright, up first here we have Hamza, our Pyro, which is running a Choice Scarf this week. Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Hyper Voice, Overheat, pretty standard coverage. Has a really good matchup against him. Pretty much the only responses that he actually has are the Toxapex and the Drampa. He could run something like Assault Vest Tornadus too, but really great matchup, and it pretty much outspeeds everything that I need it to with the 68 speed investment, because he has this really high gap in his speed tiers from Mega Gallade at 110 and Mesprit, I believe, at base 80. The only thing that's in between is the Silvally at base 95, and I really did not feel as though that was worth speed creeping just for that. So we're going modest, and with the 188 HP investment, pretty much just dump the rest into that, which is definitely very nice. And yeah, if you pick up rocks and chip some things down, this can definitely come through late game. One thing I'm hoping it does not bring is Scarf Weavile, because that can definitely check this and potentially even Pursuit Trap me back after I get a kill, which could definitely be pretty scary. So if I do get a kill with this and he goes Weavile, I'll probably just stay in, because I don't want to get knocked out by Pursuit, as obvious as the knockoff would be. So that's definitely something to keep into consideration right there. But this is definitely looking like a really solid win condition this game, and let's go ahead and move on to our next Pokemon. Alright, next up here we have Seal, our defensive Manaphy right here. We're pretty much bringing no speed, because we don't actually need speed creeping for anything. Even with 0 speed, we outspeed all of his bulky Pokemon, such as Steelix, Drampa, all of that stuff, Alolan Marowak, and pretty much we got to put all of it into bulk. And the idea with this thing is it's a really great way to break his generator core of Toxapex plus Tangrowth. After the Tail Glow, we're doing like 80% to Toxapex, so we can definitely chip that thing down. And with Ice Beam is obviously there for the Tangrowth. If he is defensive Tangrowth for something like my Hoopa, if he's really expecting physical Hoopa, we'd actually Oko that thing with plus the Ice Beam. If he has Assault Vest, it will be a 2-hit KO. Even if he gets a Giga Drain recovery, it's not that big of a deal. We will still 2-hit KO that thing. And this is also a really great response to something like a Alolan Marowak, something like Weavile. Definitely really good switch into those. We also take a knockoff from Weavile in combination with a close combat from Glade, so we could potentially clutch 2 knockouts there if you really want to do that. But pretty standard set right here: Surf, Ice Beam, Psychic, Psychic plus Ice Beam I already mentioned. Surf because I don't want to make the mistake that I made week 1 and not run Water Stab and have it cost me later. So Surf is really great for stuff like Mesprit, Steelix, obviously the Alolan Marowak too. So definitely looking for Manaphy to do a ton of work. We have the Wakan Berry there just to ensure that we can live a hit from Jolteon. Even if it is choice specs, we only take like 60% from Thunderbolt, which is definitely very nice, and plus 3 Surf will be able to OHKO that thing. So ideally we get a kill, and then he tries to go out into that to revenge kill us. We eat our Wakanberry to live and get the kill on that too, and we could potentially get rid of 2 really fast offensive threats that way. So hopefully this thing can work out. Let's go ahead and move on to our Hoopa Unbound. Alright, next up here we have our Choice Scarf Hoopa Unbound, and I really think dual Scarfers can really throw him off guard this week. He might scout for 1 Scarfer, and maybe he thinks I'm going to go for the win with that, but then we can kind of open up the door for another Scarfer to come through late game. Pretty standard set right here: Hyperspace Freeze and Headbutt, Fire Punch, and Knockoff. Knockoff can be great in case I want to knock off something like a potential Rocky Helmet Tangrowth coming in, or same thing with Toxapex if I really don't want to click Zen Headbutt against that and make that prediction too early. I can just go for Knockoff, because chances are he will have some switch into this, and Hyperspace Fury might not be able to 2-hit KO it, so Knockoff can at least have something going on for us right there. We're going with Max Attack Adamant. We have enough speed for the Weavile. We don't have enough speed for Jolteon, and the reason for that is I really am not expecting random max speed Jolteon. He has no reason to run that. I really think he will go Modest, just because even with the Modest nature, he'll outspeed my Virizion no matter what, and he can really take advantage of that power boost. So I decided to forego speed creeping Jolteon this week, and hopefully it does not come back to hurt us, because that thing obviously does get access to the Signal Beam. We do take 1 Signal Beam naturally, but even with our obviously really high base 130 speed F stat, but if he does chip us down with hazards, say T-Spikes or Stealth Rocks, which I did check, Mesprit and Steelix are his 2 Stealth Rockers, then that can definitely be a little bit of a problem. He also has the Alolan Marowak for Stealth Rocks too, which I forgot to mention. So if we do get chipped down, we do obviously have to be careful about that. But yeah, I think the dual Scarfers can definitely do the thing this week, and let's go ahead and move on to our Stealth Rocker. Alright, next up here we have Keeper, our Registeel, and I know I'm running Counter again. I've been accused of overusing the move so far, and really the idea is on offensive matchups like this, especially when you're running a Resist Berry, you really need to have something that you can take advantage of. So here, Mega Gallade, close combats us, we fire off that counter, knock it out, can definitely be a really nice scenario, because obviously while our 2 win conditions do check it really well, Choice Scarf Hoopa and Choice Scarf Pyroar, it can definitely be nice to get rid of out of the way, because Poison Jab will 2-hit KO my Florges even with the defense investment that I do have, and it does outspeed my Kyurem, so Counter is definitely the best option right here. There was really nothing else I could have run. I didn't want to go dual status Toxic plus T-Wave, because he was going to be getting Regenerator health with the Tangrowth anyway, and obviously Toxapex is not affected. T-Wave is there for potentially slowing something down like the Tornadus T. If he tries to say like Fightinium Zemi with Focus Blast or Superpower, we can eat up that Chocolberry and then throw off a T-Wave on that, maybe get Upper Rocks on it too, which is definitely very nice. We can even spam Rocks until we fish for that full para and start firing off Iron Heads, which is definitely very great, but really this thing is just here to be a nice pivot. We unfortunately don't take the hit from Alolan Marowak, so we can't hit that thing with a counter, and obviously that is something we do have to be careful about clicking T-Wave against, because if I'm really expecting that thing to come in, which it definitely could, I'd want to avoid clicking T-Wave right there. But really this thing is here to just get up Stealth Rocks. That's really the best way to put it right now. Chip down that Tangrowth and make sure, not the Tangrowth, the Weavile, and make sure that the Tornadus T is taking damage every time it wants to come back in, because with the rocks, unless he's running Assault Vest, he's definitely in range of Hoopa and Pyroar, which is definitely very nice. And that's kind of the whole idea with Registeel right here. Let's go ahead and move on to our Kyurem. Alright, next up here we have our Kyurem, which is running a Sub-Roost Chocolberry set this week, and I'm pretty sure I said I was bringing a bulky Kyurem earlier. That's definitely not true. We have max speed and max special attack right here. The max speed is there just to make sure that we can outspeed any max speed non-speed boosting nature on the Silvally, which can definitely come into consideration. 4 HP investment on there, obviously, because at level 50 you do need that 4 HP just to make sure you have that nice odd HP stat, but pretty standard coverage right here with Earth Power Ice Beam. It's a really nice Regenerator Core Breaker with the Silvally Tangrowth, as I said. This is our second of 3. Our last month can break the Regenerator Core too, but pretty much this thing is a really nice response to Jolteon. We can pivot out into this very well. And the Chocolberry is there because with the Stealth Rocks from damage on the Mega Gallade, say he brings us out, tries to close combat and knock me out, he won't knock me out with the Chocolberry, and then he takes that Spit F drop, and then we can just Ice Beam that thing out of there, which is definitely a very nice scenario that we can look at. So hopefully that can work out, but really this thing is here just to switch into something like Toxapex or Tangrowth. Obviously I don't want to take a Toxic as I'm switching in, so I might scout with something else, and if he goes for T-Spike I'll just get rid of that later, but pretty much I want to try to get behind a sub without getting Toxic is the main idea with this. And the Shopple Beaver can also be helpful against something like the Weavile. It can obviously run Z Focus Punch or Z Low Kick, or just a natural low kick too. Actually don't think it's a Z move user, so yeah, no Z moves on that. Just a low kick on that thing, which can definitely pressure this Mon, but with that Chapel Berry we can actually eat that up and then fire off an Earth Power, and we can definitely put it into range of Stealth Rocks after initial Stealth Rocks damage, so that's definitely very nice. And let us go ahead and move on to our last Pokemon this week. And our final Pokemon right here is our Florges, which is running a Subcom mindset right here. Leftovers is our recovery of choice, and Moonblast plus Psychic pretty much covers everything. This thing is really nice to break through that regenerator core of the Toxapex plus Tangrowth, as I said. Now granted, at +6, we actually are only doing like 40% Toxapex, as crazy as that sounds with Psychic. So pretty much the idea is, as long as we don't go like 20 Psychics without getting a Spit F drop, we can definitely 1v1 that thing, but I really think this thing can take advantage of those two Pokemon. Obviously, it's very matchup based. It might not do a ton of work if he brings a really offensive build, which I'm expecting. Something like this Poison Jab Weavile, Poison Jab Mega Gallade, but really, even if he brings an offensive team, this thing can naturally take any hit and at least fire off a big hit back, which can definitely be very nice. But if this thing can get rid of that Toxapex, which is what it's designed to do, I can definitely go for in with my Hoopa late game, as well as my Pyro. Hoopa's going to kill that thing anyway, but Pyro specifically can definitely come through. But really, hopefully this thing can do a ton of work if he does bring that bulkier build, as I said. If he brings something like Drampa 2, I definitely do want to preserve this thing's health, just to make sure that I have a solid switch into that. And yeah, that is going to be our 6th Pokemon this week. Definitely be sure to let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Would you have done anything differently? What do you guys think about the matchup? Do you think we're going to win? All that goodness. And yeah, the match will be live tomorrow at noon Eastern, so be sure to tune into that. Once again, if you are new, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below if you do want to follow the Lee Storms throughout the rest of the season, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.